Welcome to the Gay Buddhist Forum, where teachers from all schools of Buddhism offer their perspectives on the Dharma and its application in modern times, especially for LGBTQI audiences. These talks are offered freely to the world and made possible by appreciative listeners. If you would like to support our efforts to share the Dharma with underserved audiences, please visit gaybuddhist.org. There you can donate, find a list of upcoming speakers, or enjoy many hundreds of these recorded talks dating back to 1996.
Thank you very much, Grisha. Thank you all for being here on this beautiful Sunday morning. Let me turn and face everybody. I want to start with a poem by Jan Richardson. To all that is chaotic in you, let there come silence. Let there be a calming of the clamoring, a stilling of the voices that have laid their claim on you, that have made their home in you, that go with you even to the holy places, but will not let you rest, will not let you hear your life with wholeness or feel the grace that fashioned you. Let what distracts you cease. Let what divides you cease. Let there come an end to what diminishes and demeans, and let depart all that keeps you in its cage. Let there be an opening into the quiet that lies beneath the chaos, where you find the peace you did not think possible and see what shimmers within the storm. I've been thinking a lot about how do we practice in chaotic times, in terrifying times. And I have two main points to talk about. One is community, and the other is sort of taking our places. So I think that in Buddhism, we often think of Sangha as other practitioners. Sometimes we think of it as the group that we sit with, or we might think of the temple, or even if we think globally, all the Buddhist practitioners around the world. Which is great, and it's important. But I want us to think about and invite us to start thinking about expanding our definition of Sangha. How much do you know about your neighbors? The other people in your apartment building, or the other people in your neighborhood? I think it's one thing to sort of have this way we cross paths with other people and we nod our head and we just sort of acknowledge them. But I think one of the things that we can do that helps to kind of cement us into a community is having conversations. So I know most everybody who lives in my building. I live in a small apartment. There's 12 other units in my building. And at first I sort of just knew the lady who lived upstairs because we hear each other, right? But over time, I've started having conversations with all of the people in my building. Starting to learn about their skills. What do they do? What do they offer, But also, what are their needs? What are the things that they're facing? What are their challenges? I think we can start to really radicalize around this idea of mutual aid and community. There's an old Gullah Geechee story about a young person walking down the road with a big pot and passing the neighbors, and the neighbors all asking, well, what are you going with that pot? And he says, I'm going to go make jambalaya. And the neighbors thinks, oh, I have sausage. Let me go over to their house and I'll bring my sausage. And one says, oh, I have chicken, I'll bring my chicken, right? And it just goes this way, and then eventually everybody's at this person's house and they're all making jambalaya together in this big giant pot. When I was younger, a lot of the old ladies in our area would bring their vegetables together and all can on one day. And then they'd sort of share the canning. And it was just sort of what happened, right? I think sometimes we can silo ourselves into our own little circles. Oh, I have these people who are my family or my friends, and these are the people I can rely on, or these are the people I know, and who I can be vulnerable with. But I think that what's really magical is when we can be vulnerable everywhere. When we can let other people know what we need, and we can listen to what other people need, and we can help each other strategize how to meet those needs. I love to bake, and I bake a lot. But I also try not to eat a lot of sweets. And so I bake still because I love to, and it's a way for me to calm my nerves and end a day. And then I'll take like 2 or 3 little pieces, and then I'll take it upstairs to my neighbor upstairs, who will then share it with her friends or her family or whatever. She lives alone too, but she's this lovely little lady. And I asked her what time. I'm like, you know, because I'd bring a big pie or a whole cheesecake or cake or brownies or whatever. And she said, oh yeah, I give them to my son. I have a couple pieces and then I give them to my son because he has kids. And they don't get to get treats very often. And so I give it to my grandbabies. I'm just like, I don't know these people. I just thought that's such a cool thing, right? Like, I'm just trying to calm my nerves, so I bake. I don't really want to get any fatter than I am, so I give it away. And then she takes what she wants and she gives that away. And I've never met her child, I've never met her grandkids, I've never even seen them. But I smile. And when she brings me dishes back, she'll bring me dishes with stuff in it. My cake pan will come back with like vegetables or soup or some other thing. I have other neighbors who live down the street who live in a big Victorian with 3 or 4 flats. And it's one family. And the grandmother now bought this house like back in the 40s. And her kids and her family move in and out. But the family's kind of fascinating. Like one person is getting a lung transplant. And they all kind of take care of each other. And they're always sitting on their steps when I walk by to go to the store or whatever I'm doing in the neighborhood. This is community, right? Like, it's not just the people I see or know or think I know. It's about mutual aid. It's about bringing what I have, offering what I can. and trusting in the universe, trusting in other human beings. I think about the early days of the AIDS crisis when nobody was giving a shit about us. And we created things like Shanti, and we created things like Rita Rocket and the brunches on Sunday. We created community and mutual aid. And I wonder what that looks like now. But when my fear, when my anxiety ramps up, I have people around me that I can listen to, that I can remind me that I have something to offer, but then also who show me joy. This morning I woke up and I looked at my phone and started to doom scroll. And then I came across a friend of mine who was dancing with their partner in the kitchen. Silly. And they were laughing. And it was just general silliness. But it was so lovely to just see this expression of joy that I put my phone down and I thought, okay, I'm going to go make coffee now and take a shower. That's mutual aid. So then the other thing that I want to talk about is the idea of taking our place. One of the things that I tell new activists, new sisters, new chaplains, when they ask me what's the most important thing, and my answer is always, don't ever let anyone else decide your ministry for you. If I act and react to the world around me rather than staying true to who I am, then I'm the problem. I try to respond rather than react. I try to take a breath and think about what's the most appropriate action here. I remember when one of those hate-filled people passed and died, and a lot of celebration was happening online and with my friends. And for a minute I thought, oh, I want to join in that. This person was really awful and really horrible to us as a people and to me personally. But then I thought, is that who I want to be? If I let this person and their hatred and their vitriol decide for me who I am, I fall short. But if I can just try to stay true to my vows, stay true to who I am, and settle into that, like let myself really feel it. we sit on our cushion and we take that as an opportunity to peer at ourselves, to know ourselves, to study ourselves, to settle into what's it mean to be me in the world today. Sometimes it means I'm really anxious and I have to go to my friends and go, hey, girl, tell me what's going on. Tell me something good. Other times, I can find myself having really meaningful conversations. And other times the appropriate response is to march or to send letters or call people or commiserate with people more in danger than I am. But I can only practice my practice. I can only practice my ministry. I can only practice my activism. A lot of people ask me when I started to use my name, why I wanted to use my name. Not everybody who gets ordained sort of publicly uses that name. And my name means great vow. My full name is Daigan Gaither, great vow, joyful way. And I started using Daigan for a very particular reason, which is I wasn't spending a lot of time in the temple. I was actually sort of out in the world. I was going to school, I was interacting, I was being a nun, I was marching, I was parts of committees and stuff, and I wanted to keep my vow front and center in my life. So when people call me by my name, which happens quite regularly, in my brain goes great vow. And I'm reminded, oh, I have this great vow. I have this vow to save all beings. To do no harm. To bring an end to suffering. And so numerous times throughout the day, I'm reminded of who I want to be in the world. And I think it's really important for us in times like this, when things are really terrifying and really chaotic and really, really difficult. And there's so much hatred and so much strife and so much violence. That we don't get thrown off by that. That we can be ourselves. I don't have to celebrate the death of someone just because they were hateful. Doesn't mean I have to like them. I can love people from 300 feet away just fine. But I'm not going to let them turn me hateful. I think right now part of the strategy for those in power is to make us afraid. And my medicine for fear, for anxiety, is joy. And so I spend a lot of time thinking about, talking about, finding expressions of joy. Goes back to this participating in community, because I can't always muster up the joy, and so sometimes I have to go out in the world and find it. And it's always there. Just like fear, just like anxiety, just like anger, it's always there. But I can go out and I can really, and sometimes it means I put out on social media, hey, show me what's bringing you joy today. I need a lift. I think that's how we get through. Because I also think about, at the pinnacle of all of our friends dying and all of the funerals and all of that stuff, there were these moments of incredible joy. One of my friends' celebration of life, they demanded that everyone dance out of the church to Dancing Queen.
To what?
Dancing Queen by ABBA. It was their favorite song, and they loved to dance. And I just remember the laughter when, like, this very formal minister said, "This is what we're doing next." And those people who knew really closely, my friend, understood. And then there are the people who are just sort of tertiary in their life, who also kind of like, but then it started, and people, the laughter and the joy of that moment. Somebody I follow on social media, they end all of their videos with "Find your joy." He's usually telling silly stories, but he always ends it with "Find your joy." So find community, find joy, but also don't let anyone else decide who you are. Try to develop the capacity to respond rather than react. I'll also say one of the key parts of that for me is to feel my feelings around it. I'm not afraid of my anxiety. I'm not afraid of my fear. I'm not thrown off by it. I also don't let it drag me around. I can settle into this experience and go, oh yeah, I'm fearful. What do I need? I need this, I need that. And I think I'm going to stop there. I want to make sure we have enough time for questions and comments. I have some really smart and bright and caring people in the room. I want to give you a chance to say something. So, thank you all. Oh, I didn't do too bad. And if you just say your name when you want to speak so that I can. Sister?
Cass.
Sorry.
So last week, I was really struck by the difference between the experience of the demonstration at City Hall and the described by somebody the following day here of reading about it online and being concerned about the anger and the hatred that seemed to be a part of that demonstration. And it was really clear to me how the experience of something through social media is totally manipulated, and it's not at all reflective of what's actually going on in the world. The demonstration itself was full of humor. People were kind to each other. It felt, despite it being what we were expressing resistance to, it was full of optimism and support for each other. And I think that experience of community, like getting out into the world where people are, as opposed to reading about it, is really important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. And I think it's really interesting too, right? Like, I think that as Buddhists, we're often trained to be a bit afraid of anger. Instead of learning how to work with it. I'm a person, and people get angry. Anger is not the problem. It's how do I manage it? How do I handle it? What do I do with that? Do I let this anger drag me around and decide behaviors for me? Or do I go, oh, I'm really angry. Maybe I should do this or this or this or this. Maybe I should take a breath. Again, if I let my anger decide my behavior for me, then I'm letting someone else decide for me who I am. But also, if I try to deny that I'm angry, it's gonna come out sideways. It always does. I have to learn how to be with it and not be afraid of it, but also not let it manage me. But I need to manage it. So there's two things in there, and I think you're right. I think that's what I mean about community. Get out in the community. Get out and talk to your neighbors. Talk to that person that you see every day on the bus. Talk to them. Find out about them. Connect with them. Be in the world and of the world, right? Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. How about online? You can just unmute yourself or... Fernando, right?
Yes, perfect. I think it's so beautiful and interesting that the way you manage your anxiety. And then I don't see anxiety like as a bad thing or as like your enemy. Like that moves you. So it was like an energy that moved you to take action, so you could obey, so you shared, and you even enriched like other people's life in some kind of way. To tell a short story about that, I started managing my anxiety. I wasn't able to drive with fear of motion sickness, right? And I just learned how to drive last year, 38 years old.
Yay.
But that happened because my partner, he got cancer, and I was in an urge to how I can help him, like drive him to the hospital, buy groceries, take care of him. And that was like, then I got much more anxious, and it's like, oh, I cannot do anything to help him. But at some point I learned how to harness that force and turn it to move me to make something, that's positive. It really changed my life. And I can, even living for 10 years in San Francisco, I didn't know the parks around, you know, I never crossed the Golden Gate Bridge, and I finally did it yesterday.
Awesome, yeah.
So it's so incredible, like when you see those things as a force, you can harness it and you can use to do something that can really change your life. Right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you so much. And congratulations. I think that's awesome. And we do that by not being afraid of it, by just acknowledging it, by allowing ourselves to experience that. Oh, I'm really anxious. Okay, I can be anxious and do this thing anyway. I can be afraid and do this stuff anyway. I came to Buddhism because my grief drove me here. The loss of a partner back in 1995. And I'd spent so long trying to run away from that grief, trying to not feel that grief, trying not to experience anything like that. Because I thought that I'd gone to group, and I thought there was something called over it, and then I came to Buddhism, and they went, no, just cry. Just breathe. It's like, oh, okay. Like I don't have to be afraid of my life. So thank you very much. Oh, hi.
Daigan, I'm Henry.
Hi, Henry.
Hi. So I was thinking about your suggestion of getting to know neighbors better. I've lived in my building for 17 years, and I've been active. You know, I'm on the board of the building, and so I know people in the building and friendly. We say hi, but it's never gone beyond hi, particularly, and attending meetings. I mean, you know, we once had like a picnic in the backyard, but like we never like have people over or go in each other's houses or any of that stuff. So I don't know how to sort of move it to a different level. I mean, I like the people that I know, they seem nice enough, but it just sort of stays where it is.
Yeah. If you're interested, start asking questions. Something as simple as, tell me more about your granddaughter. You know, like if you know something about them, ask them a question about that piece you know. Oh, I know they're a doctor. So tell me about your practice. What was that like? Must be really interesting. You know, so get curious, and that leads to conversation. I think that people love to talk about themselves, including me. So being curious, and then, but the other really important piece is you have to be willing to be vulnerable in those moments too, when they ask you questions about what do you do, who are you, to be vulnerable and tell them the truth of that experience, of who you, because that's the other thing, right? Like we expect, oh, I can take on your stuff, I can listen to you, I can, you know, especially as a chaplain, that's my job, right? And then I have friends who go, girl, tell me something about you. Like, they'll recognize when I'm in chaplain mode, which usually means that I'm trying to protect something. So, get curious, but also get vulnerable. Ask somebody for help for something. It's amazing what happens when you go, can you help me with blah, blah, blah. And then that leads to more conversation. So that's how that works. Like, that's how I know the person in the building next door who was getting a lung transplant. Because I just started curious and started asking questions. And then, you know, that's how I found out that they're all related in that building, and they all are, you know, the matriarch of the family bought the building in the 40s, and, you know, they've been in it ever since, and people move in and people move out. Like the whole story of this house just came because I got curious and moved beyond like, hi, how are you?
Comment. It's Grisha. Thank you for your talk. And yeah, I had an AA sponsor who said when we would go over my character defects of fear or, you know, anger, resentment, it's like everything always boils down to fear. Like if you really boil it down, it's fear of something. Fear of not getting something you want. Fear of somebody else getting something that you want. Fear of losing something you have. And so when you were talking, I was thinking about that. Like when I'm really angry at the political situation and what I see on social media, it really boils down to fear. That like, oh my God, this is really scary, like you said. And for me, the antidote to fear is community, as you suggested, and love and family. And so I'm pretty good at reaching out, but I like your challenge to reach out to neighbors and things. I live in a building. I lucked out and won the mayor's office of housing lottery to buy a low budget condo in a building that's filled with really wealthy people. And I'm always trying to say hello, and I get a lot of like coldness. And anyway, I'm going to take it as an extra challenge. You know, like I first try, anybody who has a dog, I try to interact with their dog first. Sometimes that'll loosen up the human, but the humans so far have just been really cold in my building. I don't know what it's like. And but I also go to a yoga and Pilates studio that I started going to across the street. And I make myself, it's weird how afraid I am to just say hello to the person who is 3 feet away from me. But I make myself do it now. I just give a fist bump. Hey, how are you? What's your name? My name's Grisha. Hey, you know, and try to like get to know them. And then I also have a diagnosed memory and learning disability, so that like I will never remember their name, and I probably won't even remember their face.
Right.
So if I ask the same person 7 times, what's your name?
Yeah.
But and I have to overcome the fear of just like, who cares, whatever. It's just like our bodhisattva vow to just like try to be a light and like love, send out love, and yeah, I don't know. Be a light in this dark world. Even though we're feeling, I can feel sometimes dark and shut down, you know. So, anyway, thanks for the reminder of the push. And say hello to everyone in my building.
And yeah, and again, I think that the asking questions rather than just leaving it at hello, like saying hello is great. Oh, you're going up to the 12th floor? I live on this floor. How long have you lived here? Are you married? What's going on? Like, I mean, I think that we get so afraid to go beyond the hello, right? And especially if we're afraid they're going to perceive something about us that we don't necessarily think we measure up, or they think I'm going to hit on them, or I am hitting on them, which is never going to happen. I don't really, like, that's not how I operate, so, but it's always funny when people, are you hitting on me? No. Ew. Not the ew part, but it's such a foreign idea to me, because that's not how I'm wired that way. Like, I need to know you really, really, really well. So yeah, it's very interesting to me, the people who like think that I'm just seeking something other than like to know you. So, I mean, that's the other thing, right? Like, I think sometimes people think, and especially younger people, I think it happens more with younger people. They think that I'm just trying to like hit on them. It's like, child, I have underwear older than you. I saw another hand over here.
One, thank you. You stimulated lots of thoughts and memories. And one of the things.
Tell us your name.
Oh, I'm Bob.
Hi, Bob.
Speak up to the mic.
I'm Bob. In some of your discussions, you reminded me that a long time ago, when people would say, "How are you?" I didn't exactly know how to answer that. Do I tell them about the pain in my foot, the headache, the letter that I lost yesterday, the bowel movement that wasn't so great? What do I say? How am I?
Yeah.
And which made me think, do I want to ask them how they are? And I started saying to people when I met them, I hope life is treating you well. And either the words they said, their body language, or an expression on their face really allowed me to say, oh, and that would usually start a small discussion. And then the interaction happened, and there was no confrontation, there was no pressure. It was all voluntary.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if other people do that. I don't know how other people would feel about it, but that was always my reaction to how are you? And it still is when people say to me, how are you?
Mm-hmm.
Where do I begin?
Yeah. I actually stopped asking that question. My usual go-to question with people I don't know is, are you having a good day? Or hope you're having a good day. How's your day been? Because I think it gets a little more specific, and it allows them to sort of focus in on something, some kind of and it asks them to do another response other than, I'm fine. You know, which doesn't tell you anything.
You mean you ask how are you and they say I'm by?
I'm fine.
Oh.
Although that would be a really great answer. That would certainly open up conversation. But I think that the way we're socialized, and what are the ways that I can interrupt my socialization, right? Like I'm socialized in particular kinds of ways as a white guy, as a man, and so what are the ways I can interrupt that? And looking for those ways. One of them is not asking how are you, but asking, oh, I hope you're having a good day. You having a good day? I usually ask that's my go-to with the person checking me out at the grocery store. How's your day been? And they always kind of look at, like they take a beat. It's really funny. Because I think, one, I don't think people are used to being asked that question, particularly service people. Yeah. So I think how are you is a cop-out, personally.
Well, I use how are you, but then I offer an answer like fabulous, and usually the usual response is not fabulous. But then it sort of opens things up a little bit by giving people an unexpected like little window to deal with.
Yeah, like how are you doing? Good or great? I've heard that.
Oh, yeah.
Or bad or great.
How are we on time?
Yeah, we should probably wrap up.
Okay. Thank you all very much. I really appreciate it.